So in this video, we are going to be going over the strengths interview, particularly how to conduct an interview, how do you prepare for the interview, and why do we interview for strengths in employees. We're going to be going over how after the interview, how do you determine what a person's strengths are based off of their answers and go from there. So yeah, diving right in, we're going to go into how do you prepare for an interview and why do we do an interview in specifically. So yeah, why do we do it? Why not just do a survey? Surveys, we can ask questions, we can get answers, and it's less time consuming. Well, as true as that may be, in an interview, you can ask follow-up questions, really get to know the employee. When you do a survey, you don't get that opportunity. And so when you give them a survey and they give you an answer back, it might not be as telling or very helpful in determining what that person's strengths may or may not be. And so in doing a survey isn't very helpful, while doing an interview gives you more opportunity to ask follow-up questions, get to know the employee, figure out what their strengths are, because you're going to be working with these people, and if we're going to be developing employees, we got to know what they're good at and maybe what they're not as good at in comparison to other things. And so being able to ask them questions, really get to know the employee and what they're good at is really important, and conducting an interview is really one of the ways to do that. So some things to think about as far as what to ask. A lot of them you can see on the screen as talks about like stress and what they can do in their free time. These are good because it like ask them what do you do to handle stress, or how do you de-stress. This kind of gives you a good idea, like maybe one thing that they do to de-stress is that they start delegating tasks, or maybe they set themselves goals, or they plan out how they're going to do it and when they're going to do it. This tells you whether or not they're very organized. Maybe that's one of their strengths, or maybe another strength could be that they're very good at delegating tasks and making sure that everyone has a part, or that it goes smoothly. Maybe that tells you if they're good at asking for help. So delegating, asking these questions can be very telling in that sense. Another one is to ask them what do they do in their free time, like what do they do if they have a free weekend. This can be very telling. Maybe one person talks about how they like to go out, how they like to make plans with friends, or maybe they don't make plans and kind of just go with the flow, or perhaps they choose to stay at home and relax. What does relaxing look like? So that can tell you whether or not they're a planner, or maybe they're very good at being flexible and adapting to whatever's going to happen. This is very good in telling you what their strengths could be as well. Some other good questions to ask is how do they handle big projects? This could be not just work related, but also how do they handle big projects in general, maybe even outside of work, like if they're remodeling a kitchen, or let's say they like to do gardening stuff. This could be very telling in that sense, getting to know them and really figuring out what their strengths are. Other good ones to ask is about hobbies. If they have hobbies, what are those hobbies, and why do they enjoy it? Sometimes you can ask them what another answer to what they do in their free time could be that they don't really like to do much. They like to plan out their future. Perhaps their strength is they're very futuristic. They always look for the next. They're looking forward to the next thing, whatever it may be. And so these are some good questions to ask in an interview. One thing to avoid in conducting a strengths interview is try not to probe the person you're interviewing. You're not looking for specific answers. What you really want to do is just get to know them and take their answers to figure out what their strengths may be. So don't ask questions that are probing on whether or not they're an introvert or an extrovert. Yes, knowing whether or not they're an introvert and an extrovert is very helpful and important, but we don't want to like ask them, have them sit down and go, are you an introvert or an extrovert? That doesn't tell us very much. That gives us a very broad view when we want to start narrowing stuff down. So when we look at the different strengths and whatnot, we're going to want to take these big fields and turn them into smaller, more specific strengths. And we do that through knowing what to ask and when to ask them.